Welcome to Net Zero. I'm Mphathesithe Mkhize. South Africa produces more than 255 million tons of coal and consumes nearly 3/4 of it domestically. In 2018, South Africa was the 7th largest producer and consumer of coal in the world. Coal is the country's largest contributor to greenhouse gases. During negotiations leading up to COP26 climate change conference in Glasgow, South Africa and its partner countries agreed on an 8.5 billion climate finance package to end its dependence on coal. Today, I will be exploring the progress made to date and the strategies needed to meet this commitment. Professor Tshilidzi Marwala is the Vice-Chancellor and Principal of the University of Johannesburg and the author of 23 books. He was previously the Deputy Vice-Chancellor for Research and Internationalization and Executive Dean of Engineering and the Built Environment at the University of Johannesburg. He also served as the Deputy Chairperson of the Presidential Commission on Fourth Industrial Revolution. It is my great pleasure to welcome Professor Marwala to Net Zero. My first question of what is the status of coal emissions in South Africa in your understanding?
South Africa has an estimated 35 billion tons of coal reserves and is thus ranked 8th, constituting 3% of the total world coal reserves. In South Africa, coal is big business. South Africa is currently the world's 12th largest emitter of greenhouse gases. Because of our heavy reliance on coal, we are considered the continent's worst polluter and contribute about 33% of the continent's steady rising air pollution from fossil fuel combustion, oxidation, and cement production.
Now, I'm very interested to understand to what extent, as my second question, that this contributes specifically on the climate change.
The Union of Concerned Scientists estimates that South Africa emitted 8.1 metric tons of carbon dioxide per person in the year 2020. Vitally, South Africa's per person emissions are above the global average, which the Atlas calculated at 4.7 tons of carbon dioxide per person in 2019. While we cannot quantify exactly what our impact is, it is crystal clear that like the rest of the world, we, certainly in the African continent in general, and in South Africa in particular, must also make the change that we need in order to keep our planet safe.
What is your understanding is the progress that government is making, related to net zero emissions?
South Africa has just built 2 new power stations. This has informed much of this funding. Domestic and international financial institutions have decided not to fund high carbon projects, such as coal projects. According to the carbon brief, while coal would continue to play a role for decades, the electricity plan recently drafted will see no new plants built after 2030 and 4/5 of capacity closed by 2050. The government has also pledged to peak its emissions between 2030 and 2025.
Which are those challenges that the professor thinks these are the biggest challenges towards reaching the zero emissions in South Africa?
Well, admittedly, the target is very ambitious for a country such as ours that is wholly reliant on coal. So the challenge, the big challenge is how do we move away from coal? The political buy-in certainly seems to be in place, but we have to ensure that this is not simply a talk shop. While the pledge at COP26 is a step in the right direction, we must see this funding manifest and be used in a responsible way. We should note that the just transition is not an option we can afford to avoid.
About what is that you think can be done differently, which can help the country to enhance, the effort, if we are serious to meet the zero emissions, especially in South Africa, against the coal problem that you're having in terms of its production?
Well, we need to focus on the just transition. There are a number of ways we can do this. Clean coal technology enhances the efficiency and minimizes the environmental impact of handling, extracting, and the use of coal. While clean coal technology can be classified as part of the supply side management of carbon emissions, we can also deal with the demand side to achieve a just transition. As an immediate step, We need to recycle plastics, but they should be banned altogether and replaced by other eco-friendly substitutes in the long term. We should gradually increase the use of solar energy. Here at the University of Johannesburg, which has 60,000 students and staff, we have installed solar infrastructure, and this has resulted in a 15% energy consumption coming from solar energy. Us to recoup our investment is actually just 2.9 years. I think we should do all these things. The time to act is now. A day later is a day late.
As a country, South Africa, we need to take serious action for a just transition. South Africa's efforts on this issue are essential because the country has the largest share of coal production in Africa, which is a major contribution to climate change. So, if we are serious about making a positive contribution to climate change mitigation, the country must take serious action to achieve a net zero planet. I am Mphathesithe Mkhize. I add my voice to the voices of my net zero international youth peers to monitor the action of our world leaders to achieve their net zero commitments.